All right, we actually just finished a day of filming, and so we ran over here to record this conversation. I've got Patel and Shahar Isaac. Shahar, this is your first live stream since season 1.
Did I? I don't think I've ever been.
No, you did. Stream. You did one on season 1.
You did one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like on Zoom, and you were saying, I remember you saying, I feel the love. We feel
okay.
This is back before we were cool.
Dallas still watches it every day. Yearning for the day Shahar comes back on a live stream.
Yes. Well,
so come back.
Yes. So we're finally here. So I wanted to talk about, just briefly, between seasons 4 and 5, you both got to travel around the world a little bit. I didn't get it. I had to stay back and actually edit the episodes and do work. You guys got to go to premieres, and you were in London. And you also, because I saw a couple of interviews that you did where you were speaking in Spanish.
Yeah, we were also in Mexico City.
Yeah, Mexico City. And then you got to go to Brazil.
Yeah.
And I've been to Brazil. I was there before you were, and I know they love Mateo in Brazil. So that had to be pretty cool. So talk about your Brazil experience, especially the reaction from people in other countries and another language.
Yeah, I remember you texting me from Brazil and saying, get ready for it. They show their affection with hugs because, you know, I don't like to, I'm like Matthew and don't like to be touched that much. But
you better get used to it because they're going to come.
But Brazil was amazing and so was London. It's just amazing to see the impact the show is having globally. And in Brazil, I don't know if I shared this story with you, but I had fans tell me that they didn't know the word to the behavior of someone being on the spectrum or autism.
Really? Okay.
So they said, thank you for opening our eyes to that. And they would say in Portuguese. And I tried to use Duolingo to learn and speak to them. But that to me felt like the biggest impact the show was having. And it was so moving. And the love is so real for Mateus in Brazil. And I hope to be back. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I remember a family came up to me in line and said, our son is like Matthew or Mateo. They wrote it on their phone and then had it Google translated. So they show it to me. Beautiful. And then I'm seeing this, I'm reading this, and Amanda and I are reading, we start crying. We're just reading it quietly because, you know, we have family on the spectrum as well. But they were saying, we didn't know, and he didn't know that God could love him and that he could love God. And then seeing that Paris's portrayal as Matthew it was one of the really beautiful moments in Brazil. So there's something about Mateus in Brazil that they just they love. But you speak Spanish, right?
I do, yeah.
And so you were able to be in Mexico City where you spent a lot of time.
Spent a lot of time. It was a homecoming. Actually, both London and Mexico City were both kind of homecomings. And because London also, I spent a lot of time for school and for work.
Right. And you did theater there.
I worked there for a long time. So it was both for both situations. The London was the first premiere that I have attended for this production.
Yes, right.
So because somehow I was always not far in this. So it was the first time that I actually saw kind of what this show is, you know?
And that was like the most amazing one. I remember getting out of the car in London and just seeing just everybody in the screens and just it was
pretty weird, like pretty special. Like the wind was going. It was nice and crisp. It was really, really, really fun experience and really special to see it for me for the first time. And then Latin America was such a blast. We did it in Mexico City, and it was another situation. I brought one of my childhood friends, like one of my best friends from like I'm 9 years old to the premiere, you know, and so it was like a circle closing. You know, he hears about the show, he hears about you. You know, we always joke that Dallas looks like Superman, so he always tells me, just tell him to get casted as Superman already. And so it was a really nice thing to bring friends to this situation and share the show with them, and really, really special. Yeah,
it's so beautiful when we see people in other countries because we make it here in the States, and then it's like you just. I think the first time we ever started to discover people were loving the show, everyone has a different experience of where maybe they're recognized in public or I remember for me, I went to an award show and everyone was greeting me and I thought, I didn't realize people were watching yet. So it's cool to finally see it, and what the work you're doing to help support it is allowing us to get it out to the world.
And to watch the show in Spanish with an audience and you realize like, wow. Like it gives you another angle of the story, and it's another audience because we watched the show in London with an audience and we watched the show in Mexico City with an audience, and the audience reacts. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah, they react in different ways or to different things.
It was really beautiful and really nice to see kind of like the impact. And it was from all over Latin America. So you saw from all countries of South America coming. So you saw from Chile, you saw from different parts, from Colombia, from people, and the representative. It was really this just beautiful thing that you always have it only in your mind. You know what I mean? Like you don't really believe it's real until you see it, and it's so shocking to see how much like coming out in Mexico City and seeing suddenly, whoa, how did you guys hear about the show? I'm always shocked by how much of a crowd and how much love you get there.
Yeah, it's been beautiful. So I want to talk about how we got to the episode we just saw, which is episode 2, filmed it. Gosh, it feels like a long time ago.
It does.
And we filmed it on this set last year. And this was a scene at the end of the episode that I had actually been planning for several years. I always thought that the way that Peter is, the way that Simon is, that when he does everything aggressive. And so even when he forgives and even when he loves, it's going to be aggressive. And so I always had this idea of Peter just walking, not stopping. I had this idea of the shot of Matthew just kind of like looking up, what he's doing, and then just grabbing you. And so when I think of that scene, and I think back to season 1, and I think of you saying, you're a little off, aren't you, to Matthew, right? When he's pursuing you and he's like, Quintus is coming. Yeah. And I think of you telling Quintus about what he's doing. And I think of the scene where you grab him and like go to, like, because you want to punch him, and Andrew has to pull you back. And I remember how visceral that felt. And like like you were like, I remember you being just feeling bad for Matthew.
Yeah.
Like it kind of triggering almost your own sympathy for him. And then thinking all the way back then to this, what's it been like? I guess I want to know for you, from your perspectives, like to act over 4 seasons of conflict, all culminating in that scene. Take me back to season 1. So I'll start with you. Okay. Some of those scenes that we were doing where you go from going to betray Matthew to actually, to betray Simon, to starting to see what Jesus is doing. Like when you're doing that, you're not thinking several seasons ahead like I am. You're thinking in that moment. What was that like?
You know, in that moment, I always, as Paris, hope that there is resolution to any kind of conflict. So I knew we were butting heads, but I knew, eventually Matthew follows Jesus, and eventually they're going to have to be a team as the disciples and band together and spread the word. So I kind of had an idea that they can't just hate each other for seasons to come. I just didn't know when it would happen. Right. And then throughout the seasons after season 1, obviously you see, Simon at the time kind of softening up, in season 2, asking where Matthew went or seeing different layers to Matthew as his heart opens up more. So in season 1, I just remember, that scene where he's like, you should turn himself in. And that was actually my first scene. And I just remember being very excited to just get into the world of Matthew and play. And Shahar was my first scene partner. And I think just building that rapport with him just kind of kept that going. So it made me excited to get to this point and film this sequence and kind of have that resolve happen. That scene where, he almost physically gets to Matthew. Shahar, I don't know if you remember this, but you, after filming that, you felt terrible totally. And you took me out to dinner. Yes, I did. And we just kind of bonded over that. And that to me is one of the biggest things that The Chosen has given me is just an extended family. And for Matthew in the show, you see him gain more family. And it was just a great moment.
What's it like in a scene like that when you don't know each other very well? And so how do you build trust quickly? Because he has to trust that you're not going to actually hurt him. You have to trust him to let you feel it, and Noah has to get in the way. Like, what's it like to do something like that when you don't know each other very well?
Without, what do you call when you have bicycle and you put the wheels next to
the training wheels?
Training wheels.
Yes.
Sorry. So it's, I think, without training wheels, like actually jumping off the cliff for moments like that. So if you ask me personally, the best situation to prepare for something like that is to actually have a little sense of danger, to have a little sense of something is, you don't know exactly what's going to happen and anything can happen. That's why it feels so risky, because it's, because we almost come close to it. The scene says that he's about to give hit Matthew, and then he gets stopped. So it's, I talk about this the other day, when you were playing it. So there's something about it that is very, you want to you don't want to know that you're not going to give the punch.
Right,
you
right.
want to be surprised by that moment, by that grab.
And you have to trust that Noah.
Yeah, that's
will
right.
Stop
all
you.
of it. All
and
of
you
it.
have to trust that
All of
Noah
it.
will stop
Yeah,
you.
for the sake of my face. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was very. Do you have that word in Hebrew? Visceral.
Totally visceral. Totally visceral. And it's it's nice. We have that's the nice thing about a situation like this, that you build a dynamic, but then when you actually do it, not trying to coordinate it, because the fun thing is that 3 people coming from totally 3 directions, and then whatever happens, the spark that happens on camera, rather than us coordinating and planning and everything, and then you get like this thing. So you created the playground, you create the tennis court, and then you allow us to actually play ping pong, and not just repeat.
Yes, and that was part of it is handheld cameras.
Yeah.
And saying, you guys do something and we'll find it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want it to be, you have to hit this mark.
Yeah.
You have to be right here. And it starts to feel a little real. It starts to feel different from a formal Bible show that's very staged. It feels visceral. It's like you're grabbing him and he goes off camera for a second, and that's okay, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So now I also then think of a scene that wasn't physical, but still felt scary, which is around the campfire.
Oh,
when he's when you really go, you know, and we talked about that too. That you felt, because I remember coming to you, are you okay? And you said, I'm feeling for Matthew in this moment, and because he's not stopping, no one's stopping him, and you have to take it, and because he has to say it, and so same thing. How did that feel? How were you able to shake that off after that night? Because it was 2 a.m. You're exhausted. It's cold. You know, what was that like?
You know, I think just it just goes back to, you know, just acting and training and just kind of brushing it off and you know, knowing, you know, Shahar off screen and I love when people pour everything into their work, and that's what our cast does, and the spontaneity it brings, and you never know what to expect. And I just remember I was listening to every word he was saying to me, and it was affecting me. And that's how I play. I mean, that's how I portray Matthew, is that he listens deeply, so emotionally connected to himself. And that I just let myself feel it through. And it felt, the point was, it was effective is how it felt. But getting out of that rhythm was okay for me. I didn't really, I wasn't like down in the dumps. I wasn't writing my thoughts like Matthew probably did or something.
Well, and by then, you like you said, by then you did know Shahar better.
Yeah, so it's just easier the trust, the level of trust we all have when it comes to these kind of scenes. We know to let our scene partner go there. We know that we just have that trust and support.
And when you do a scene like that, where you are, you have a lot of words to memorize.
Okay.
And you're very prepared. You always, and I think you prepare so that you can.
But at the end of the day, it's about I'm only reacting to what he's giving.
Yeah.
So if he's there and he's present and engaged, all I need to do is look in his eyes and allow what comes out to come out. There is an element of filmmaking that is, you repeat it many times, so people see it once, but you do it all night, because that, and that can leave, you're all night in this kind of energy coming out, and then kind of regaining the energy, and then energy coming out in this kind of intensity. But yeah, I mean, it's all about, every performance is dictated by the other person. If he's there with you, every little micro change of his of what he's feeling about what you're telling him will carry you through and let you know. And
that's one of the reasons on our set we have a culture of generosity towards each other as actors. I'm not speaking for myself, but for you guys. When you're off camera, there are some actors, not on our show, but who just kind of read the lines. They're just there so that to give you someone to look at. But all of you set an example of, even though I'm not on camera, I'm going to be present for the other actor.
Yeah.
And that allows you to give your best work. And,
totally.
Allows you to give your best work. Because when we're filming you in that scene, listening to him, you're going even harder. Off camera.
Yeah. Oh, it allows you more. Yeah, you don't have. It's great. It's the best. It's fun. It's why we like this to do this. You know what I mean? It's the best thing. It doesn't matter how many.
It does kind of get some frustrations out at points too.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So we come to season 4, where Matthew is in that scene, and I remember this scene very well too, because you were frustrated. There were distractions. Again, late at night. You're not a big fan of the late night shoots.
I just giggle. I like lose my 3 a.m. just done. Paris has exited the building.
Yeah. But it's you and Jonathan as Jesus, and you start the scene angry. You're coming to Jesus to say, "I'm upset with you. Actually, I'm hurt by you," and you end the scene realizing, okay, you know what? I have done wrong. I do need to ask for forgiveness. Is that difficult to play, to start a scene in one opposite spot from where you end up? Because you have to believe in the beginning of the scene what you're saying, of course, and then have your mind changed. What's that process?
You know, I honestly think that's the essence of a beautifully written scene. For Matthew to feel like, why did you elevate Peter and not someone more worthy, or maybe Matthew's feeling himself, and then to actually kind of have it spelled out for him of who wronged who first, whom wronged whom, whatever my grammar, and then to see him realize of what he actually did, and to potentially ruin this man's life with his family, and then to know what he went through, recently in our time with season 3. I think that really hit home for Matthew, and then of course the guilt came in, the shame, and the I have to figure out how to fix this, and then the fear of that.
Right.
So all these things came to Matthew, and that's why I love that scene so much, because it shows us as people that we should kind of be a Matthew and adapt that.
Can you truly listen?
Yes. And
can you change your mind?
Yes. Yeah. And also seeing if something scares you or worries you, look what Matthew did and look at the outcome. It might not always be that, but at least you tried. And I think, with that scene where Matthew does apologize and doesn't immediately get the satisfaction back, you see that, but you see him, really feeling like, at least I tried. And remember, there's that scene after that. Remember, I remember talking to you about with Gaius, and he said, I have one thing to do today. Believe in him. Follow him. Yeah. And that just shows the growth in Matthew, and it just shows that, it's all about timing, essentially, for Matthew. And
we talk about Matthew 1.0, Matthew 2.0, Matthew 3, that there's these changes that both your characters have gone through over the years. It's the beauty of television. Instead of 90 minutes in a movie, you have multiple seasons to develop these shifts, and we talk about it all the time as, all right, this is where Simon is right now. He's different from last year. Yeah. So, but that was really one of my favorite moments in that scene with Jesus is when he says, no, not in theory, in fact, not in I'm forgetting the word.
Yeah, I forget.
But I suppose you're like, I suppose, he
was like skirting around, because he knew it was.
And Jesus is like, no, in fact, you did this wrong, and it's a really cool moment. So Matthew responds to having his mind change and realizing he needs to apologize with fear initially, right? You respond with anger. Walking away. Why does it have to be so hard? Throwing the stick. And having to really wrestle with it. Yeah. What would take me through that scene where you're with Jesus now, separate from him, and you're doing the same thing. He did this, and this. And again, Jesus treats you differently than he treats Matthew. He's firm with Matthew. Yeah. With you, he's softer. He kind of guides you to it as opposed to pushes you to it. But again, same thing. Starting a scene one way, and then realizing, oh, I'm supposed to forgive. 70. Yeah, because you forgave me.
We've already gotten closer, and we've already showed some. By that moment, we've already had. It was almost like there was a certain element of forgiveness, but it was more subtle. So I'm not willing to admit that the relationship has shifted. Right, I'm not willing to admit that we're already. I showed you how to stab the thing with a pen, and I've kind of learned. I've defended him a little bit. So it's almost like I've already on this. Perhaps I've made the transition, perhaps, but then there's the last thing, which is to actually admit it, to actually confront it, and say I'm actually okay with letting go of this dynamic when I'm the person that was hurt by him, And that's a hard thing to, I think it's a very human thing. It's like, even if all your senses have already admitted, even if your empathy has already opened, but you don't want to make it official, because this is yours. This is my thing. You know what I mean? You don't take that away from me. You know what I mean? This is mine. So it's a nice.
It's like, I've let you into my home. Yeah, I've let you eat, but I haven't given you the best dessert.
That's right.
That's
for
the
right.
family.
You're still. Don't you think that you're a friend? Don't you think that you're within the family? You know what I mean? But underneath it, so it was just the literal letting go. You know, it was the literal allowing myself to let go of it, which was up until the last moment. It was not even with the conversation we had the night before with Jesus, up until the moment that I come to him. I'm not coming to make forgiveness. I'm coming and not knowing what will happen at the end of the. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why this wasn't in the script. You did that right before you started to walk towards him.
Yeah, because I don't know where I'm going. Actually, I know. It's like it's happened.
And it's almost like, I have to get to him before I change my mind.
Yeah.
And then you hug him, and it's like, it's when you hug him that we start to see the actual shift.
Yes.
Right? And that goes for you too, where you are scared, right? Because he's coming towards you.
Yeah.
He could be coming
triggered.
to hit you.
Yeah.
So how did you play that, of really playing that you don't know what's coming?
Honestly, like, I just lived in the world. I didn't know how the approach was going to be. I didn't know. All I remember, as Matthew in that moment, was that I felt like he was charging to me. And I remember as Matthew just not knowing what was going to happen. And there was a moment where I tried to, kind of hide in case anything physical was going to happen. So you never know until there was that big hug. And then you see Matthew kind of release into it. And then, and then the rest of that. But I truly didn't know how that was going to happen. I mean, we all know what's going to happen, as actors know, but
you know what's in the script.
I just didn't know the approach of it.
You really try to put yourself in that place of not knowing.
Yeah.
It's the magic of what you do, which is how you prepare, but you still really try to play the moment, which it became one of my favorite scenes, and I love the reactions too. When you see like Andrew and Thaddeus and stuff. That turned out really nice too. But yeah, it's been a long time coming, and I've loved watching the two of you over the years as the characters have changed to where the forgiveness becomes inevitable, right? Where you can't wait any longer. It has to happen. The water has boiled in the tea kettle, and it has to come out now. And that's what made that scene fun. So now we're in season 5. We'll close with this, but season 5, we've been filming for 29 today. I think we hit 28 or 29 days. I don't remember. But how's this been so far, coming back into it before season 4 even came out on streaming? But like, do you feel like
it was kind of hard to post about things from season 4 without it fully being out? So I'm excited that's happening. But it's been great. I say this every time we film a new season, but it's just elevated. There's a lot more tension. There's a lot more emotion this season, and we're just going there. Everybody's in their groove now and just giving their best. And I'm enjoying it. And I'm enjoying Matthew's journey this season as well, and just continuing to tell his story.
Yeah. And I actually we're working on season 6 scripts now. And I was just working with Tyler and Ryan on the first episode. And man, I mean, it's already... Again, you haven't read it yet, but I'm just telling you, you'll like it. It's exciting because it's another step for Matthew's involvement, because season 6 is the crucifixion and seeing Jesus get arrested and all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, I shouldn't be going that far into it, but it's cool. But again, it's the process, and you and I talk now. I remember we used to talk about the scenes as Simon's a bull in a small space. He's trying to break out, and now we get to talk about, like, you get to encourage someone else. Yeah. Even today, a scene we were doing, it's like you get to be frustrated with Z, but then you put your hand on his back. Not something you would have done in season 1. He's a leader now. He's coming into his own leadership.
Yeah, and I think it came, the way it's written, everything is very kind of makes sense. It's a kind of natural progression.
Organic,
one thing led to another, and by now, and it's really crazy to think about the change from season 1 until now. It's insane to think about it. It feels like it's another human being, you know?
Yeah.
So it is, it's pretty cool because you just really can ride the wave and just let it happen naturally and with time and let it develop. So it's really, really fun.
So in closing, I also wanted to ask, have you, you know that Chosen fans all over the world have been praying for you and supporting you over the last 7-8 months?
I have. I've gotten a video from you of an entire audience cheering, and I've heard during at some point of another moment like that, and I have been feeling the love, and I'm not as connected to the online world as most other people, but yeah, I have felt the love, and I really, really, really appreciate it, and I love you guys. I love the family of the Chosen. There's that's what it is. It's a family, and I really, really, really love this family.
Yeah, and same with you. It's just the love for Paris and for Matthew.
I mean,
in every language has been beautiful.
All thanks to you. But it's been great. Keeps us going.
All right, thank you, and thanks guys for joining. And we've got work tomorrow, so
we do.
Let's go get some sleep.
Let's sleep.
All right,
nice.
Thanks.